Welcome back to Bearded Brothers, episode number 3. Been trying to do this intro without crying, but I can't. My best friend passed away earlier this month, April 18th, I believe it was. I don't know. It's been 12 days, which is kind of crazy. But we recorded our last little bit of our last episode in this room with my friend Scotty Beers. Dustin made fun of his flesh-colored beard. But it's kind of crazy because last episode we talked a lot about church. We talked a lot about grief. Little did I know that he was going to leave this world and that this podcast might turn into something about me unpacking grief. And I really thought about, do we continue it? Honestly, I really didn't want to personally, but I had told him we'd do it till January. So I want to take this episode especially and talk about Dustin Hamilton Orr. Probably can't even put into words who he was and describe him right. I'm recording this the day before his funeral, and I will be officiating his funeral. I'm going to post this about 8 o'clock, the day of his funeral, which is the last day of the month, which is really ironic or purposeful. It's all how you look at things. But we grew up together. We told that side of the story. My mom changed his diapers. His mom probably would have changed my diapers. I don't know that for sure, but we grew up in a church nursery. We went to school, kindergarten through 12th grade. We spent hundreds of nights playing video games, each getting a pizza, having a bag of Doritos, Mountain Dew, some frozen sorbets or something. But the best part about those nights was just spending time together. We learned we couldn't play Madden together or NBA or any kind of sports game together. We would play through games, like I think we played Silent Hill 2. We played through the Resident Evil games. We played through Metal Gear Solid games. Kingdom Hearts. But we wouldn't play sports games together. We'd have to take a quarter each. And we go on, and he was the best man in my wedding. I ended up officiating his wedding. Would have been technically his best man too. I honestly, I can't even remember. And then kind of both fell in love and started families, and kind of, I wouldn't say we wandered apart, but we off and on would reconnect. A couple years ago, we actually got an Airbnb in Cleveland and just played video games and kind of went through our whole routine that we used to do, and just had a great fun night together. Love sports. We saw a lot of Cavs basketball over the years. Played some basketball over the years. Coached for a while. We actually coached down at the school where I'm currently administrator at. We coached a JV team that my brother was on to a championship and then a second place. And he's my biggest supporter. I mean, when I had a youth group that I was involved in, he'd go up with me. They called him Bus Kid Dustin, which of course he wouldn't let go of. Then, he was there. I don't know that I was as good of a friend because I don't know that I was there for any of his kids' births. I think I might have went up for the twins, and I think I was maybe there for Chris. I didn't see any pictures, but I have pictures of him at every one of my kids' births except for Arwen. And the first one, it was him. The second one, it was Sarah and him. And then the third one, it was him, Sarah, and all 4 boys. When I started a church down in Wilmot, they came. They were supportive. I know Sarah always said that it's a church where she felt home at. I think if they weren't 40 minutes away, they would have came. But tell you about my best friend is, man, he loved big. He loved his boys. Sarah's oldest son, David, he adopted. Um, David's dad wasn't there for him, but Dustin was. I remember being called that guy, Brad, when I would come over. And Dustin, he did. He adopted David, and really was his own son. It wasn't, and I can see so much of Dustin in David. I've spent some time with the boys, and I think they're like, "Get out of the house, Brad." I mean, they're kidding, obviously. Me and Dustin had a 3-night rule. Could only stay at each other's house for 2 nights, 3 days, because by the 3rd night, we were sick of each other. And then, of course, had Chris and Eric and Ethan. And he read to those boys. He'd read them Harry Potter. He'd read them different books. And some of you know, went through a battle and had a rough period where he went to prison. He went to prison for, I believe it was 3 years. That was rough. I was not a good friend. I did not write him, did not visit him. I always joke and say I made up for it when he came out because he was on my cell phone for about 3 or 4 years. But really wasn't a very good friend during those times for sure. But it didn't matter because when he came out, we met at Denny's and he had the biggest smile on his face again, even though I had been kind of a friend. By the way, I just said crap, but I'm going to beep that out twice, and I don't have $1, so I'm going to I think I actually, here, look at this. I am going to take, because we're trying to get this swear jar up to 700, and I'm not going to swear. So we're going to put a 20 in for me saying 3 times. I'll put that in what I said, because that way people don't think I actually swore. But then after coming out, his wife struggled with some back pain and got some pretty heavy addictions to different drugs, went through rehab multiple times. And, you know, she was as real as they came. I thought about, should I say this on here? It doesn't matter. They're both past. They both loved each other more than most people that look like they have a perfect life do. I'm doing a couple, possibly marrying a couple people this summer, and they're going to be a big part of my marriage counseling because they went through so much stuff and stayed together. He also, when he came out, got a job at a pallet yard and moved up in that company, I was just talking to one of his coworkers. I think he said the only guy in management that wasn't family there at the pallet yard he was working at, and kept telling him, hey, you can do this. You could be a manager, because he said, I don't like management. And eventually he took that dive and did a good job, very efficient guy, and then moved over and kind of was doing the job that this guy was doing at another pallet yard. And moved up there too, was constantly helping to do things there and revamp things, and anything he could do to help, he would help. He was always a learner. When Sarah died, that was probably one of the toughest times. I'll never forget getting to the house and him just in tears. You know, I lost my best friend, is what he said. And it really was his best friend. You know, talking to his boys, they said he'd do anything for Mom. And I really think in the end, he died of a broken heart. I don't even know what all the reports are or what it is, and it doesn't matter to me. I love Dustin. And I believe he died of a broken heart. I also think maybe Sarah, in her jealousy, was like, he can't go out to an adult prom with another lady. That's just not going to happen, especially if it's New Wave Nation, who they would go to every summer. I didn't know how to do a podcast like this because I thought, how am I going to describe Dustin? So I kind of just told you exactly the things that I knew. I could go into more things. He was always, always there for me. If anybody would have gave me flack, he would have been the first one there to fight him. He loved immensely. It was his world. His family was his world. I sometimes think I could learn a lot of lessons from Dustin in that way. But I do want to tell you kind of what the title of my message is tomorrow night, I guess it'll be, and that is, there's too much purpose not to believe in Jesus. Can I say this? How do you do a service for a man that believed in Jesus, but also would give you such a hard time if you got too churchy? But in his heart of hearts would be really, really ticked off if you didn't tell people about Jesus. And I don't know where you're at watching this today. I don't know whether you're a believer or not a believer, or where you stand. But me and Dustin grew up in Christian school. We grew up in church. We truly did get Jesus shoved down our throat all our life. You know, I ran with it and really delved into Christianity. I delved into, I guess, the politics of religion. Wanted to be a preacher, and I still preach today. I don't pastor per se, but I'll preach and I'll disciple and I'll evangelize and I'll tell people about Jesus, because I couldn't get through this today without having Jesus. But we went out to eat after our last podcast. We had talked so much about faith. We had talked so much about his grief. And I'd heard a lot of things like, Brad, I don't understand. And I quote him, you know, I love the time I had with Sarah, but I'm also so angry that God took her. And I edited that out of the first one. I'm just going to beep it out. I put $20 in the swear jar, so I've got a couple bucks to spare. But I remember thinking, man, I hope that he's not deconstructing his faith. I understood that he was a believer, you know, by his admittance. He had gotten baptized when he was a teenager, but he also claimed to believe in Jesus. And so we were out to eat at Denny's, and I just couldn't help it. I'm like, Dustin, you know where I am with my faith, and I've struggled with in times with my faith. I'm sorry, but the struggle is real. We're humans. We have humanity. Like, when my dad died, I struggled. I really did. That was a me problem, though. Dustin here really struggled when Sarah died. You know, he saw the reality of it, that he got time with her, but he also was so upset that she was gone. And so I asked him, I said, Dustin, we've heard about Jesus all our life. I said, what have you done with him? What is Jesus to you? And he said, Brad, don't you remember when I got into baptistry? He said, finally, this guy is getting baptized. And he told me this. He said, Brad, there's too much purpose in life not to believe in Jesus. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's the truth. There is too much purpose in life. And I don't say that lightly without an example. When David called me and told me that Dustin had collapsed, it's probably one of the hardest days of my life. Losing my dad was tough, but this was probably one of the hardest days I'd ever experienced. I was hyperventilating. I was screaming at God. I was so angry. I didn't understand. Why in the world would you take their mom and then take their dad, my best friend? I got there and they had worked on him. And when I got there, the ambulance was pulling away. And I walked up on the front porch and went in and hugged the boys and talked to the boys. Ethan, who Sarah and David have done just a phenomenal job of raising, jokingly said, hey, Brad, I'm Batman. So at least he gave me a laugh. But I was in no place to comfort anybody because I was broken. I was angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at just, why is this going on? I was angry saying, well, man, if the people believe in faith healing, why don't they come raise my dead buddy from the grave? And I was just mad. The first time when my dad died, I dealt with grief that was due to really as my own fault. I just wasn't spending time, and I was getting a lot of blame and hate towards God, but it was really me. It was a me issue. This was an angry issue. But something happened. When I say that there's too much purpose in life to not believe in Jesus, I honestly mean that. Because the next moments, I was sitting on the front porch and there was a little blonde police officer. Her name was Sarah. And Sarah, I thank you because your signs and your purpose for being there that day is so evident in my life. Because Dustin's wife was Sarah, of course, we all know that. And she was blonde, and she could have made a really good police officer, actually. She policed the boys and kept Dustin straight, kept me straight when I was over, made sure we didn't go out too much together because knew we could get in trouble. But Sarah, this police officer, goes inside, and as she goes, I look, and on her elbow, right here, there were 3 butterfly tattoos. And all I could think of was Sarah and Dustin. I could say my dad, but I'd say his dad. These 3 butterfly tattoos were just a reminder. And I remember as soon as I saw those and I saw her name was Sarah, I looked up to the heavens and I just said, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, God. Thank you, Dustin. Because you've showed me there's purpose even in the worst situations. A little later, the coroner came. We had to wait for way too long. And coroner came, and on the coroner's body, there was a blue fluttering tattoo of a butterfly. If you look at the urn of Sarah, it is a blue urn, and on top of it, there's a fluttering butterfly. If you can't see purpose in life, I don't know how you can't. But I'm going to leave it at that because Dustin would probably go, all right, you're getting too preachy. But I tell you right now, he would say that, and he'd say it as serious as can be. But if I would have said nothing, he would have been, Brad, you idiot, why didn't you say something? You know, you hear things that say, well, my best friend's better than yours. Well, I'll say my best friend's better than any best friend in the world. Dustin lived a full life for 43 years. The Friday after he died, I got to go up to see an after show with John Foreman from Switchfoot. He's actually our bearded brother interview this month. I got to sing with him on stage. I'll probably put a little collage of some of that and also maybe put a video to, I don't know if that'll even let me, but there's a song called Live It Well, Live It Well. Life is short. I'm going to live it well. And I can't even think right now. My brain's been a little bit off, but yeah, it was an amazing experience that night too. And I thought of this. I played that song every day of my bike trip that I went on 4 years ago, kind of in memory of my dad. And I used to play that every morning because I'm like, I'm living it well. I'm doing life, living life to its fullest. And, you know, I'm always a guy that'll go to the concert, 6 hours away and then drive back home that night. I'm always running. I'm staying too busy sometimes, and I know that. But Dustin's Live It Well was this. It was coming home and being with his wife and kids. That was his living it well. Was loving the people that was around him. That speaks a lot, guys. That speaks a heck of a lot right there. His live it well was being with the people that he loved. And yeah, it wasn't elaborate. It wasn't the most beautiful thing. And, you didn't see every mountain in America or go see the 7 wonders of the world. But his 5 wonders of the world was Sarah, David, Chris, Eric, and Ethan. That was his 5 wonders of the world right there. And he lived it well. And so my challenge today on this podcast, and I'll tell you where it's going to go. I've kind of been thinking about it and praying about it, and I had no clue because the biggest reason for this podcast was to get Dustin out. And he'd been really unpacking his grief. A lot of great things happening. We talked a lot. And I thought, what in the world? Where do I go with this? Well, I knew this episode was going to be all about him. The next couple episodes, I'm going to have some videos of what Dustin meant to people. Because I want you, the viewer, to know what my bearded brother was like. And so I think we're going to turn this a little bit into a grief podcast for a couple episodes. I've invited David, his son, to join me as we finish up the year, and kind of like me and Dustin, we'll see where it goes from there. I know there's a lot more podcasts out there that are probably more articulate speakers and better speakers, and I don't know, that this was, like I said, this was very much a passion project, but we're for sure going to turn it into a little bit of a grief podcast. I've got a couple people that'll come on as a special guest, and we'll talk about grief, we'll unpack grief, and we'll go from there. We'll interview a bearded brother every month. Our guests may not be bearded. We joked and said we had to get a beard for them to wear those. So we'll make sure any lady, except for Joni, gets a pass, because she actually is one of the videos at the end. She talks a little bit about Dustin, and she didn't wear a beard. I kind of forgot about that. But she'll be the only one to ever be on our show that will never have to wear a beard. But maybe we'll have her on again. But this show is going to continue at least till January, where we still want the Kelsey brothers on. Like, that was my goal. And Dustin actually kind of had bought into it last episode. He was buying into the podcast more. He acted like he was forced to do it for so long. In reality, he was the one that contacted me in January and said, brother, you still want to do that podcast? I'm in. And so I don't know. And if you know new Dustin and you want to reach out and send us a video of what Dustin meant to you, I want to put those at the end of the episode. But one thing I do want to say, and I'm going to put all the links to this, and I know some people hate GoFundMe. I get it. And yes, I know we're going to give maybe 20-year-olds and 19, 18-year-olds maybe a lot of money. I'd love to. I'd love for them to be set for life. They deserve it. And I've already talked to them a little bit about, hey, if we come into some money for you guys, let's find a financial advisor to help you guys out. But we do have a GoFundMe. And honestly, I'd love to go way over that. I want to take care of these boys. They mean the world to me. They're great boys and men. I shouldn't call them boys. They're all men. And I don't even know if you guys will watch this, but if you do, I love you guys. And if you can take some time and you could put $20 to a GoFundMe, or if you have $10,000, put $10,000. I'm not trying to hawk it. Like I said, I don't give to GoFundMes. But, or if there's some way you can help them out, if you don't like to give, find another way, send them a gift card, or, get a hold of me. Oh my goodness. I just still can't imagine even what they're going through. I'm grieving, but I can't imagine what they're going through. So if anything, give them some prayers, send them some encouragement. But I think that's all I have. I hope you enjoy the Bearded Brother interview with John Foreman. That, again, I got to sing with him, which was just absolutely incredible. I may put that at the end of the episode as well. But yeah, that's all I have. But until next month, this is Bearded Brother without his bearded brother. But I never thought this would happen. This is the wonderful John Foreman. And as you guys know, by now Dustin's passed away. And so this is my bearded brother interview for this one. So, John, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And you kind of have a beard there. It's a stubbly enough beard.
I should have let it go a little bit.
No, you can just let it keep growing.
Okay, fair enough.
But, one, what's a song that you go to in grief? Is it Live It Well?
I think Kind of Blue by Miles Davis is my, I'm feeling kind of blues. Yeah.
And then how long have you had your beard? What's the longest? I can't remember, but
the thing with a blonde beard is it gets real cobwebby.
Yeah.
The longer it gets, the grosser it gets.
My best friend, when we interviewed our bearded brother last month, he had a flesh-colored beard, as he called it.
Yeah,
so.
That's really what it is. It's even worse when it's just a mustache. That's just, nobody needs to see that.
And then lastly, because these are all off the cuff, so I'm just going to think of one more. What would you say to my buddy's kids? I know that's a hard one to put you on the spot, but I love these boys. There's 4 of them. 2 of them are seniors.
My heart just breaks for them. I've got 2 kids myself. And
I got 4 myself too.
oh, it's just like I would tell them that that your dad loves you.
Amen. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. As you guys know, Dustin has passed, and we're going to do something a little different the next couple episodes. But this episode, we've told a lot of his story. So I want to hear from a couple people that just will tell a little bit about what Dustin was to them. So today we have a 1999 graduate of ours that we graduated together, Joni Glick. So go ahead, Joni.
What Dustin means to me? That is a loaded question. I've known Dustin since I was in 6th grade, been friends with him for all through high school, even a couple years after. Dustin was the class clown, always loved being around him, could always make everybody laugh, and just always enjoyed his company. And as things do after high school, we naturally grew apart. He started his family, I started mine, and grew apart for years and didn't really see him at all. But fast forward, Sarah had passed, and I was at El Campesino, and all of a sudden I see Dustin over in the corner. So I go over, give him a huge hug, and he's the same person he was in high school. It was Dustin. He's just the most lovable guy ever. And he had stayed in contact with Becca. Becca and I had stayed in contact together. So he got my number from her and just reached out, and we started texting back and forth and just kind of reconnected, getting to know each other again. I had gone through a really difficult and painful divorce a couple years prior, and I know it's not the same thing as losing Sarah, but it is a loss. And so we had a lot in common, a lot we could talk about, and a lot we could help each other with. For the next few months, we texted more and more, started hanging out a little bit, and he just became one of my closest friends, and it happened so fast. Like, we just reconnected. I think having the history in high school helped, obviously. But Dustin was amazing. He always would, want to make me laugh. Always wanted to make me smile. And, if I was laughing, he said I did my job. And um, we texted sometimes all day long. Like, sometimes with my job, I'm able to text, and like, obviously it wasn't constant, but sometimes like throughout the day we would just keep each other company. And when you've gone through a loss of losing a spouse, whether it's divorce, whether it's through death, it can be very lonely when you're used to having your person. And so we understood that about each other, and it just helped to have a friend and just helped someone to reach out to. And sometimes just texting dumb stuff, just whatever was happening, what's happening at work, just we just really were able to like reconnect and just be there for each other. And I will completely cherish these last few months that I've had with him. I still can't believe that he's gone. A lot of times in the afternoons when I would get home from work, I just kind of chill and relax. I would sit on the couch and, hey, how was your day? That's who I would reach out to. And I come home now and I sit there and I go to text Dustin, and like, oh, I can't do that anymore. So it's been really difficult, but he is an amazing person. He has the best sense of humor, and he has helped me immensely these last few months, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for the time that I did get to reconnect with him. And um, I'm happy that he's with Sarah now. But we all are taking the loss really hard here, and I will forever be grateful, and I thank God so much for him.
Thank you, Joni. I am amazed to me how many people he was helping. Like, literally through grief that he was going through, he was helping so many people.
Absolutely. And he told me, he's like, Sarah helped people.
Yep.
He's like, and I want to carry that on,
Yeah.
and I want to do as much as I can to honor what she did. And he really, really did.
Just move your mouth without saying anything, Joni. Just move your mouth. Okay, good. Now I can beep you out and you can put $1 in the swear jar. Just kidding.
Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. And you're the one I'm living for. Awaken all my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. I wanna sing with all my heart a lifelong song. Even if some notes come out right, some come out wrong. 'Cause I can't take none of that through the door. Yeah, I'm living for more than just a funeral. I wanna burn brighter than the sun. Hey, life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I